The roguelike market is officially oversaturated. You know it, I know it, even Elon Musk, Path of Exile 2's undisputed gaming god. Yeah, even he knows it.
This is a great staff, but it's only a level, 62 staff.
Are you in the top 20 in the world or
Yeah.
top 20? Wow, in Diablo.
Yeah.
The explosion of the genre from niche to mainstream has unleashed a flood of low-effort copy pastas, forcing us to weed through the trash to find those gems in the rough. But I don't want you guys digging, so I've already done the garden work for you. Today we're looking at 3 roguelikes that innovate on combat and remind us that it's not roguelike principles that are stale, it's their combat environments. First up at bat is a game that takes us down deep into the earth where the creepy things crawl. I played this game all the way back in 2022 when it was in early access, and even then I considered it one of the best roguelikes on the market. And so in 2026 I decided to revisit Beneath Oresa, the card-based roguelike with an emphasis on positional combat. And I'm absolutely shocked with how much content the 2023 1.0 release has added to a game I had already been enamored with. Though you'll initially begin with only one playable hero unlocked, once you reach specific account level thresholds from a meta progression experience system, you will begin to unlock the rest of the roster, which comes to a staggering total of 9 playable characters, who are evenly split into 3 factions: the Tainted Ones, House Adjika Defarity, and the Guild of the Ruinfarers, with characters belonging to the same faction sharing a large common card pool. But each hero, even those within the same faction, remain distinct with hero-specific cards, as well as signature combat mechanics that fundamentally change how you engage in combat. Furthermore, you can recruit another one of these 9 playable heroes as a companion, though keep in mind there are some companion restrictions depending on your starting character, and these companions have their own unique progression trees that can be leveled up during a run to grant you powerful perks or unique cards, though they will not physically join you in battle. In this, you stand alone. We all know card-based roguelikes have been done to death, but what makes Beneath Oresa special is its unique positional combat that utilizes the concept of near and far to create a ton of strategic depth. Every battle encounter in Beneath Oresa is split into 2 zones, with enemies in the same zone as you considered near, and all enemies in the opposite zone considered far. Normal and light melee attack cards allow you to move between the 2 zones at will. Heavy attack cards require you to be in the same zone as your targets, and ranged attack cards can target near or far enemies but lock your position. Some attack cards even have a knockback condition, which can see you flinging a near foe into a far zone. And even though there are only 2 positional planes, there's a ton of tactical decisions that manifest due to its existence. Take for instance enemy abilities like aim that causes them to deal 50% more damage if you are not in the same zone as them, which will cause you to think twice about the order in which you play your cards, to ensure you attack priority targets before ending your turn near the opponent with aim. Or the imprecise ability that causes a far foe to hit their ally near you. Do you play it safe and hunker down while the enemy targets one of their own? Or can you switch zones, get some damage in on the tougher enemy, and slip back to the other zone for safety? How about enemies with the hail ability, which deals friendly fire to foes who are near you, so you'll want to end your turn surrounded by as many foes as possible to siphon damage off yourself. Or the Twin Heralds boss with his Shaman Twin passive that allows him to gain 5 permanent attack power if he is near you before he attacks. In this fight, deliberate use of knockback attacks and zone changes are vital to surviving this encounter, and you'll have to think twice about removing the Shaman's sidekicks from the fight early, as keeping them alive allows you to use their position on the field to always make sure you end your turn far from the Shaman Twin. To take it a step further, even the cards themselves have positional bonuses. Erupting Dogma deals AoE damage to surrounding enemies if you initiate the attack on a far foe. Dodge and Weave grants 15 shield for each enemy in the far zone. Explosive Spring sees you leaping to the far side and damaging foes in the sonic blast of your launch point. And Firestorm shields 5 for each near foe as you shred like a spinning cyclone. When isolated, these decisions may seem simple, but every battle in Beneath Oresa typically has 3 to 4 enemies on the field, each with their own abilities and passive triggers that you'll have to contend with. And since you'll begin each run with just 3 energy to cast your cards, though you can extend this much further with specific cards and antiquorums, you'll need to carefully manage defensive and offensive plays, while also using enemy abilities against them with smart positional maneuvers. Enemy intentions are readily transparent above their health bars, so you'll always know exactly how much damage is coming at you each round. Since shields reset to 0 at the beginning of each round, and many enemies tend to grow in attack power with passive traits like strength and numbers, which grants the foe 3 temporary attack power for each near ally, Final Mockery, which gives another foe a permanent attack power buff of 5 when the target is eliminated, or Spiteful Rending that sees a foe grow in attack power each time you strike them. It's not a matter of if you'll take damage, it's a matter of how much. So protect yourself as best you can, but stay on the offensive before enemy attack power begins to snowball. Luckily, with the sheer amount of card variety, with each card having 2 upgrade path options, in addition to the wildly unique faction-specific mechanics, Beneath Oresa gives you all the tools you need to destroy and conquer. Take Sahona from the Guild of the Ruinfarers, who utilizes the faction-specific gunslinger mechanic. With this character, you'll need to manage your ammunition and reloads while mixing in saber attacks to maximize your effectiveness on the field. Consider this combat scenario. You play a 0-cost Rapier Slash on a far enemy, lowering their health enough to cast Summary Execution, which requires 3 rounds in the magazine and deals triple damage to a target with 50 HP or less. This kills the machine and causes it to explode for 15 damage to all near targets. You have 5 energy left, but there's a problem. There's only 1 bullet left in the clip. Luckily, we can play Scavenge Demise, which deals 43 damage and gives us 2 bullets back if it kills the target, which it does so decisively. 1 energy left and 1 far target, but it's not over yet. We have the final word. A 0-cost card which deals 23 damage and lets us gain an energy point back if our target is far. Now with 2 energy left, we cast Weak Shot to reduce our foe's attack power, and Straight Shot to leave the machine malfunctioning with 6 HP left. And yeah, we did all that in a single turn. If that got you a little too excited, change your pants and come on back, because the other 2 factions are just as resourceful. House Ajica Deferity, for instance, has a counterattack meter that scales off of the amount of retribution accrued. Utilize cards that fill up the counterattack meter like Counter Blockade, which shields you for 5 and grants 1 counter bar per near enemy, as well as Zeal cards, which are randomly selected each turn and will fill 1 bar of the counterattack meter when discarded, and when maxed out you'll unleash a devastating counterattack in accordance to your accumulated rage on the next highest single target melee attack received. During a counterattack you are fully immune to all incoming damage, so smart execution of counters can allow you to play more aggressively, given you won't need to consider defensive card plays for one of your foes. With this faction, defense really is the best offense. And finally we have the Tainted Ones, who proliferate virus cards throughout your deck, and when reaching thresholds of 5, 10, and 15, will produce powerful cards like Cobalt Surge 3 that supercharge you with 2 extra energy, 5 temporary attack power, 40 shield, and 2 non-virus card draws, all at no cost, allowing you to extend your turn and dish out some serious damage. Watch the viral spread though, as if you don't begin to purge your deck at some point, you might get stuck with a handful of virus cards and nothing to attack or defend with. So what does a run in Beneath Oresa look like? Well, as you navigate the levels beneath the sprawling city of Oresa, you'll travel a randomly generated and almost entirely linear node pathway system, with the only split paths occurring at a junction where you must decide between engaging in a normal combat encounter that will offer a selection of 3 cards to pick between upon victory, or a much more challenging elite battle with a choice of antiquorums as post-battle rewards, which are powerful passive boons that are vital to further refining your character's build and overall power level. Beyond combat encounters are nodes where you can regroup, which offer options such as upgrading 1 of 3 or 1 of 6 cards randomly selected from your current pool, healing yourself for 30% of your HP, or increasing companionship level to unlock their rewards. Removal nodes to remove cards from your deck to hone in and sharpen your overall build, or scavenge nodes that contain powerful reward options, like increasing a card's starter damage by 8, or gaining 1 of 3 exceptional cards, which are some of the most powerful cards in the game. That's if you're lucky though, as oftentimes the rewards come with a cost. Heal 40 HP but lose a companionship level, or gain an antiquorum but lose another in the process. At the end of each floor you'll face Beneath Oresa's nastiest threats, where expert positioning and thoughtful card plays are mandatory in order to survive. And should you do so, Beneath Oresa has 10 difficulty levels to make your runs even more difficult, as well as unique expeditions that can help or hinder you, such as the new Cult of Shenna, which adds 1 revelation card that weakens everyone on the field by 75 attack power, which can be a lifesaver if you are lacking shields, but it also adds 2 uncertainty cards to your deck that will weaken your attack power on draw. 3 factions, 9 heroes, each of which can double as a companion, hundreds of unique cards that reward careful play, antiquorums to further craft a build worth caring about, and expertly crafted positional combat. Put it all together and Beneath Oresa will have you doing Doctor Strange calculations just to make it out alive in some of these encounters. Beneath Oresa is sitting on Steam at a base price of $24.99 USD on Steam, with past sales seeing it get as low as $9.99. If you want a roguelike you can sink well over 100 hours into, Beneath Oresa has got you covered a couple times over. Next up on the list is without a doubt one of the most unknown hidden indie gems I've covered on this channel, as it sits with just 279 reviews on Steam. This is one of those games that is laser focused on gameplay and mechanics and pretty much nothing else. There's no story here, no flashy graphics and animations, and that's fine with me because that's not what I play games for. What Blood Card 2 Dark Mist does deliver on is an innovative card-based combat system I've not seen anywhere else, and for that reason alone I'm going to defend this one like my life depends on it. Upon choosing from a cast of 6 highly distinct heroes and embarking on a run, one of the first things you'll notice is that you don't have a health bar. And of course you do have a health bar, just not in the traditional sense. In Blood Card 2, it's the size of your deck that directly corresponds to your overall hit points. The more cards you have in your deck, the larger your health pool. When you enter a combat encounter, you'll be faced with 3 to 4 columns of enemy troops stacked up on top of one another, each of which have a variety of passive effects and attack types. But don't worry, you won't have to take on an entire army at once, as outside of ranged attacks, you will only be contending with enemies in the very first row. Enemy attack power is listed at the bottom left corner of a card, with the green circle indicating the enemy is in an active state and will attack you for the stated amount. But remember, your deck is your life, so you are your cards. When an enemy attacks, they will first attempt to target your discard pile, and in doing so will consume a number of cards depending on their attack power and add it to their own personal stack. Generally, the only way to get these cards back in your draw pile is by eliminating the target who holds them, though some cards like Rip and Tear allow you to attack and swipe a few directly back into your hand. In Blood Card 2, deliberation of which target to eliminate based on their direct threat level in addition to the determined value of the cards they hold and that you want back is a big part of the strategy in this game. Reduce a foe's HP to 0 with their total hit points indicated by the number on the bottom right of their card, and the column will drop a stack, bringing the new foe into the front row, though they will enter it in an inactive state, which means they are unable to attack until the next round. And so much of the strategy in Blood Card 2 comes from managing these column stacks as well as active and inactive enemy states to avoid row configurations that could put your life in jeopardy. And this is made all the more difficult because of a wide array of passive traits attached to foes, from passives like Taunt that activate when an enemy enters the first row, forcing you to attack them until they are defeated, which can be incredibly dangerous if other front row targets are hitting for big damage and eating all your cards up, to Iron Defense, which causes all attacks, regardless of their attack power, to hit for a single point of damage, turning what should have been a simple kill into a threat that will take multiple card plays to address. Or to the Frontline trait, which allows all other enemies in the front row to attack twice each turn, which if not kept in check can put you very close to death's door and potentially end your run. There are a ton of passive conditions just like these in Blood Card 2, and they make every single decision and card play fraught with risk and reward. Do you hold a column hostage and keep a weak enemy in the front row while you dispatch the others? Well, be careful not to leave them with too much HP as their stolen card stack grows fatter and you're left with nothing to kill them with. Is there a formidable foe in the front row that will take some time to dispatch? Well, make sure you don't kill another enemy in the front row and have someone with Taunt enter the field, where you might not be able to kill the bigger threat before they drain your deck and end your run. Things get even trickier when you add in ranged attackers, as enemies with this trait can damage you from the middle row. And while there are ranged card options you can use yourself to directly target these foes, it's often the case that you'll need to force them into the front row by killing the target below their position before you can even hit them. Fortunately, Blood Card 2 gives you a ton of tactical variety to handle these threats, and 10 difficulty levels for each character that continues to test your resolve. From the Vampire, who has a hunger pile where she can store cards for later use, and a unique blood art condition on cards that trigger based on the amount of cards in that hunger pile, to the Rage Incarnate Berserker who can generate an impressive amount of zero-cost boiling blood cards for endless carnage, and has unique condition-based cards like Finishing Move that triggers when it's the last card in your hand, and on a card like Kneebreaker, instantly kills a non-boss enemy with the highest HP. Or the Prophet who can foretell which cards they will pull and discard what isn't needed for the next turn, and also has a unique star point mechanic that can see certain cards gain additional bonuses if they are in a specific position in your hand. To the Bugmaster who places parasitic cards inside enemies to shred them from within, and can generate an incredible amount of energy for card casts. To the Dark Knight who produces curse cards called Dark Marks, which when consumed by an enemy target can then trigger devastating punish effects on cards you play. To my personal favorite, the Beastmaster, as she can summon up to 2 creatures on top of her draw and discard piles. What's really cool here is that all of these creatures come with their own unique attack conditions. To name a few, Wolves will attack all enemies with the lowest health in the front row, which is absolutely devastating if you can reduce multiple enemies' HP pools to the same value. Then we have Cheetahs that strike enemies whenever they enter the first row, Grizzlies that attack all enemies with the highest attack power, and the Fearsome Saber assumes the attack power of a summon you must sacrifice, and will attack 3 times at random targets in the front. Even cooler are the separate command actions for creatures, which have an entirely different effect if played when 2 summons are already on the field. When your discard or draw pile is empty, the summons on top of them will perish, so careful management of your card numbers in each pile is paramount to keeping the momentum of the fight in your favor. If this isn't enough for you, Blood Card 2 also has the basic bells and whistles that we've come to expect from the roguelike genre. After every battle encounter, you'll visit a shop where you can upgrade or remove your cards, purchase new ones, or buy new passive buffs which the game refers to as props. But what's unique here is the fact that you can acquire new cards when you level up during a combat encounter, and if you take down enemies with a treasure or question mark icon, you will be rewarded with a selection of props or temporary buffs to choose from, so you can grow in power level even in the midst of a fight. 5 floors of column and row based warfare, and 5 shops offered as respite between them. This is Blood Card 2 Dark Mist, and it's frickin' awesome. Blood Card 2 Dark Mist is sitting on Steam at a base price of $14.99 USD, with past sales seeing it get as low as $1.49, which is legitimately less than a cup of coffee. If you value originality and thoughtful design mechanics over visual spectacle, you can't go wrong with this hidden roguelike gem. The last game on this list is one that will have you wishing upon a star like you're E.T. trying to phone home, and that's because Astrea, 6-sided Oracles, is all about getting lucky, even if you have to brute force much of your way to reach that lucky outcome. Forget everything you know about card-based gameplay, because in Astrea, your success comes down to a roll of the dice. The essence of Astrea's combat revolves around 2 key terms. Purification is straightforward. It cleanses your corruption buildup and damages enemy targets. Corruption is the tricky part. It hurts you, but heals enemies, and if you corrupt an enemy too much, you'll trigger their overcorruption meter, causing them to unleash a spiteful counterattack that you most likely can't afford to tank. In Astrea, the dice you use to distribute violence are separated into 3 categories. Safe die, which have no downsides but are overall the weakest bunch in terms of raw attack power. Balanced die, which have a healthy amount of purification and corruption related sides. And risky die, well, they have a lot of risk involved, but while 2 to 3 sides might offer powerful offensive options, the rest will be riddled with corruption. When you begin a combat encounter, you'll draw a number of dice from your deck, with 4 being the default starting amount, though this can be extended further from many of the passive boons you can acquire during a run. What's cool here is that there's no energy cost associated with any of your dice casts, so on every single turn, you can play every single die that you draw. There are a couple catches though. For one thing, there's a max hand size of 8, so you can only hold so many dice in your hand at once. But here's the bigger catch. You cannot skip bad rolls. If you roll a corruption face, you must play it, whether that be on yourself, your sentinel companions, of which you can have 2 and will aid you in battle with their own dice, or on an enemy target, which, remember, will heal them and fill their overcorruption meter. If you're not careful, you can be stuck with a hand full of corruption-facing die that you have to cast, and when you factor in the damage the enemy team is planning to dish out on top of that, you're at great risk of losing one of your 3 total health bars. And in Astrea, your health bar is not in the least bit substantial, as it only takes 7 unmitigated corruption damage to lose one of your precious hearts. They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and it's obvious that corruption in Astrea is incredibly dangerous. It will damage you and it will kill you, but wield it with cautious intent, and the full breadth of Astrea's gameplay will be revealed. Because in Astrea, it's all about treading the line between life and death. You see, you want to make yourself bleed, so you can cast powerful abilities that the game refers to as virtues, which lay the foundation for Astrea's tactical backbone. Virtues sit above each character's health bar, with each one having their own corruption threshold triggers. Take the playable hero Solarius, for instance. At 2 corruption taken, a minor purification attack becomes available for use. At 4 corruption, you can perform 2 rerolls on any dice of your choosing, and at 6 you can play a powerful purification attack that hits an enemy twice for 4 damage each. In addition to this, every character also has a virtue that sits to the very right of their health bar that is available to cast every turn, as it has no associated corruption trigger value. For Solarius, this base virtue is an AoE purification attack. But what makes virtues especially powerful is the fact that there's no limit to how many times they can be triggered. And since enemy intentions for the next turn are readily transparent, and you'll know exactly how much damage you will receive, Astrea's strategic gameplay comes from smartly utilizing corruption-faced die to injure yourself and activate those virtues, and then you can patch yourself back up, self-harm some more, and do it all over again. Be very careful though, for any slight miscalculation as you tread the line between life and death on your turn to manipulate those virtue triggers could see you not having enough purification dice to heal back up enough and avoid losing one of your hearts. In many roguelikes, part of the strategy in combat is associated with the deliberation of which card to play over another, but in Astrea it's not so much about which dice you play, as you can play everything in your hand in a single turn. Instead, it's about the order in which you play them. Luckily, nothing is ever written in stone until you run out of rerolls, and Astrea gives you plenty of opportunities to do so. Many dice have faces with reroll options, which is indicated by this swirl icon, and the number listed is related to the amount of dice you'll be able to reroll in a single cast. In addition to this, every single character has a reroll virtue available to them, though many have different corruption threshold triggers that you'll have to keep in mind. And even some of the recruitable Sentinel companions can have reroll dice faces themselves. Clearly, Astrea isn't shy about offering you these rerolls, and it's a smart move because it removes some of the bad RNG that would otherwise plague this game and make it too random to actually create and execute a character build. But here's where things get really interesting. Not only can you reroll your dice, you can reroll an enemy's dice. Right click on an enemy's dice and you'll be able to see all 6 sides available to them, each of which have varying degrees of corruption, and more often than not, another nasty negative effect attached to them, often in the form of a debuff, buff, or self-inflicted corruption attack. But as long as you have rerolls, you can keep on spinning that wheel of chance in an attempt to both manipulate your own hand and the enemy team's hand into an outcome that's as favorable as you can hope for. Now that we understand the nuances of Astrea's combat, let's take a look at all the bells and whistles that a full run can offer. When you begin a run in Astrea, you will be presented with a choice between a normal star blessing, which are passive boons that work in concert with your dice selections to create powerful build synergies, and a black star blessing, which offers some of the strongest passives in the game at the cost of having a negative condition you'll have to contend with. Other nodes you'll visit include epic die rewards, which are the most powerful dice in the game, star shards, which are the game's form of currency, random event nodes, shrines where you can restore a heart or sacrifice one to gain a star blessing, as well as safe, balanced, and risky die reward nodes. Visit the Sentinel shop to purchase up to 2 companions, which perform a unique action automatically at the end of each turn, and also hold a 6-sided die which you can cast or reroll as if it was an extension of your own hand. Sentinels can be upgraded to reach a max level of 5, where each level increases their max HP and upgrades the faces of their die to be more effective, or in some cases changes them entirely. Or visit the Forge to duplicate or remove a die in your collection, or pick from a selection of powerful dice faces to replace a side from a die that you own, which can be especially useful on risky die, as you can purge one of its many corruption-facing sides and decrease the odds of it landing on something that might result in you losing one of your 3 hearts. And we all know what awaits us at the end of each floor, but I'll let you discover the big baddies for yourself. With 6 oracles to choose from, each with their own unique dice pools and meta progression unlocks, and a combat system that has you constantly towing the line between life and death to extend your combat capabilities, Astrea is another one of those games that injects new ideas, and thus new life, into a genre that I sincerely cannot get enough of. Astrea's 6-sided oracles is sitting on Steam at a base price of $24.99 USD, with its lowest recorded price sitting at $16.24. Drop the cards and pick up the dice, cause I don't know about you, but I'm feeling lucky.